So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. We've got folks joining us from all across North America and hopefully beyond. And so welcome into another exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. I know we've got some familiar faces today. We've got some new teachers joining us. And if you are new to what we do, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. Now, over the last few months, we have been so thrilled to be participating in this epic Peak Discovery series. We have been heading to the most iconic of Canada's national parks in Alberta and British Columbia to bring you stories of the wild. We have paddled up rivers. We've talked about fighting fires and creating fires in the bush. Later on this month, we've got bison coming up for you guys and so many more incredible programs. But for today, we are going to dive in specifically on snow and avalanches and how we deal with this as a park system. I'm going to explore that a little more in an intro in just a second, but I do want to note for all our classes, some of you might be familiar with the fact that we do Kahoot quizzes, and we love Kahoot quizzes. Today, we're going to do an especially interactive one. So throughout the broadcast, between times that we're talking with our amazing guest speakers today, between some of the videos, we are going to be doing a quiz together. So if you want to get up kahoot.it with the pin 6444014, get ready with those questions. I hope you get the chance to participate, and I'm excited to see what you guys have to say and answer as we go throughout today's broadcast. I'll make sure that's in the chat for absolutely everyone as well, and before our first question. So today we are going to Mount Revelstoke National Park, just a really incredible special place of the world. For anyone today in our audience who's had the chance to head to the national parks in Alberta and BC, they're some of my favorite places in Canada, and I hope yours as well. Today we are going to learn about avalanche heroes. What happened when an avalanche covers a road? How do they get people back on their feet? How do they deal with all the incredible snow that happens in these special mountain passes? And so we're going to find out from the team today. I'm so excited to dive into them. I hope you are as well. And without further ado, let's head to our team out there in the wilds, in the snowy forest right now to say hello. Welcome in, guys, and take us away.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everybody. My name's Danielle. I'm one of the avalanche forecasters in Glacier and Mount Revelstoke National Parks. We had hoped to do this today in the Rogers Pass weather plot. Unfortunately, the road's closed, so we're actually in Mount Revelstoke instead of Glacier National Park. The section of road through Glacier National Park is roughly 45 kilometers of really challenging terrain and one of the most complicated sections of highway when it comes to managing an avalanche problem. I'd like to start out by just acknowledging that our national parks are on the land of the traditional territories of the Ktunaxa, the Secwepemc, the Sinixt, and the Silks First Nations. And a little bit about why this section of highway is so important is that the Trans-Canada connects the whole country. It's the transportation corridor for getting all sorts of goods across the country, from food to computers, all sorts of stuff. So my job is forecasting when avalanches are going to happen and taking action to prevent them from hitting the road and interrupting the traveling public and the transportation of goods. So we're going to start off today by heading up to Mount Fidelity, our weather station that's up high on one of the mountains. And it's really important to our avalanche control program. So let's take a look around.
Fantastic. Let's cue this up and dive in, everybody.
Welcome to Mount Fidelity. So we're at that Mount Fidelity, which is high above the highway. Basically, it's like an outdoor research center where we're collecting a bunch of information about snow that feeds into our decision making for controlling avalanches on the highway. Today we're going to show you around here a little bit and show you some of the things that make, this place so unique and also so challenging. Up in Mount Fidelity, you can see we've got the station, which is a nice building. It keeps a lot of our weather computers and stuff like that. We've got the garage. This is where all of our power systems are coming in, our generators. And then we've got our outdoor lab. So this is where all of our instruments and tools are kept for measuring a whole bunch of different factors that we include into our forecasting for avalanches. The Fidelity Station is where we keep many tools and instruments that help us understand what snow is doing. This snow plot is never touched unless we are measuring snow. It's important that these layers don't get pushed down by people walking on it or touching it, as that changes the snow layers. The weather tower records temperature, humidity, wind speed, and direction to help identify how these factors are affecting the snow. Sometimes these elements make the snow stronger, and sometimes they make it weaker. The reason we're doing all of this is we're doing avalanche control to keep the highway and the railway safe. So basically up here, we're collecting a whole bunch of information to predict whether or not avalanches are going to happen. And when they are, we're then trying to close the highway and trigger avalanches so they're coming down safely and not affecting the road. And to do that, we work with a whole team of people, including the Department of National Defense, who are helping us to do the avalanche control.
And you're back, guys. Just unmute your mic. Oh, there we go. We're good.
Yeah, welcome back. I hope.
There we are.
Hope you guys enjoyed the virtual tour of Mount Fidelity there. So I have our first question for you guys now, and choose the answer that you think fits best. So who can tell me what an avalanche is?
Ooh, okay, so I'm going to pull this up in our Kahoot. We'll pull up that game pin link on the bottom of our screen. As I said at the top, we are going to be interspersing our videos with our Kahoot questions today. So many of you have already joined in. This is amazing. Way to go, everybody. All right, so we'll play that first question. We'll take our answer. The faster you answer, the more points you get for those who haven't played before, and we're going to start in a few seconds. You can help us out in the final few seconds out at Revelstoke with our answer. Who can tell me what an avalanche is? Is it a type of cake, a lot of snow coming down a mountain or slope all at once, a truck, or a member of the Australian band, the Avalanches? I think our teachers, our folks might know this today. I got a good feeling that our classes are going to do a really good job on this clue. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come. We'll do a car presentation and a cake presentation next week. But for now, our overwhelming answer, everybody got it right. A lot of snow coming down a mountain all at once. Awesome. All right. We're good on question one. Keep us going.
Yeah, nice work, you guys. Yeah, so my job as a forecaster, essentially, I'm a snow detective. So my team and I are out there picking up all the clues. We're looking for evidence and figuring out where we think avalanches are going to come down and how big they're going to be. And a lot of that's going to be based on the weather. It's going to be based on the type of snow that we have. So, I mean, the big question, I'm guessing most of you, it's not winter anymore. Obviously, it's still winter here and it's snowing. And how can all these little tiny snowflakes that come down turn into a big, massive, destructive avalanche? So we're going to start small, and we're going to talk about snowflakes.
Very cool. All right, I'll cue that up for everybody. Let's dive in. I will say, it's not just winter where you are. We had a blizzard the other day here in Southern Ontario, so I think you got a lot of folks that are dealing with a little last gasp of winter. We'd rather it go away. All right,
not alone.
The detective work we do to understand the snow is called snow science. Here's how it all starts. A single snowflake tells us a lot about the weather and how it will fit together with other snow crystals. Will they stick together tightly, which we refer to as bonding? Or will there be lots of space between the flakes? The types of snow crystals provide clues about the likelihood of an avalanche happening. Weather conditions can change the shape and structure of a snowflake.
Right. You are back.
Nice. So I just talked a little bit about how Rogers Pass is a pretty snowy place. Can anyone guess how much snow we get in one winter?
Ooh, okay. Question number 2 in our Kahoot, everybody. Let's get that up. This is kind of fun. This is our first interspersed Kahoot of all time, so bear with me. All right, question number 2. Again, that game pin will get it up on the bottom of the screen. If you aren't in already, feel free to pull that up now, and we will dive in. Oh, Power Hamster's got our lead, followed by Fast Falcon. We need a creature from the mountains to win, I think, today. How much snow does Rogers Pass get in one winter? 50 centimeters, height of a mid-sized dog, 1.5 meters, height of a car, 5 meters, height of a giraffe, or 10 meters, the height of a lamppost in your neighborhood. 10 more seconds, folks. Ooh, what do we think? 12 answers in. Don't be shy. Get those answers in. And our tally is a very even split. Most people got the correct answer right. So 10 meters, which is ridiculous. What a huge amount of snow.
Yeah, we get a huge amount of snow at Rogers Pass. And up at Mount Fidelity, we actually get closer to 14 meters of snow. So it's a lot. And that basically means those of us that are working on the avalanche control program need to be paying a lot of attention to what's going on. So I've got a snow question for you guys. What do you need? What conditions do we need for it to snow?
All right, our next Kahoot question, we'll pull that up. Power Hamster maintains the lead. Okay, let us know who you are at the end as well. What things are needed to have it snow? So our answers are temperature below 0 degrees Celsius, moisture in the air, dust particles, or all of these things. Now, I'm going to give you a little hint from my end. For those who've ever played a Kahoot with me, I like to have a certain kind of answer in questions like this. And if you follow our typical Kahoot trend, you might get this one right. 19 answers, 20 answers. So a lot of people thought temperature below 0 degrees. But most people, 11 of our 19, said all of these things together. Way to go, guys.
Yeah, nice. So that all of the above is the right answer. You need that little particle of dust. The water's going to condense on that. If it was above 0, it would fall as rain. But if the temperature is below 0, we're going to get snow. So nice work. So yeah, all of those conditions form a snowflake, and that's a big piece of the avalanche puzzle. As snowflakes change shape, so if you catch snowflakes as they're falling, you're going to see that classic little shape, but the weather is going to actually change that snowflake on the ground over time. And so some things are going to make them stick together, and some things are going to make them not stick together and be more dangerous as avalanche conditions. So right now, looking around, it's spring. I'm not sure how far you can see on me, but like if I grab the snow, it sticks together into really good snowballs. It's more spring kind of warm type snow, where in the winter you might go out and it's looser and not sticking together as much. So when you guys have a chance next winter, definitely go be snow detectives and poke around in the snow a little bit. So we're gonna dig into the snowpack now and head back up to Mount Fidelity.
Ooh, I'm so excited. By the way, as I pull up this video, I want to note Snow Detectives is the best. You can build a snowman and call it science, and I really don't think there's a better thing to do than that. So let's cue up that video for everybody and dive in back at the mountain. All right.
So the recipe for an avalanche is you need snow. It needs to be on a slope. And you need a trigger. So, as we mentioned earlier, we have all these individual snowflakes that are coming down. And as they fall, they're going to form into layers. kind of like Legos stacked on top of each other. And what we call them all together is the snowpack. So at the start of the winter, the first snow is going to fall. That's going to end up at the very bottom of the snowpack. And throughout the winter, we're going to get all sorts of storms that are going to come in. We might end up with really thick layers and big storms. You can end up with little thin layers depending on the weather. Different weather can form weak layers or they can form strong layers. Right now, we're here, it's in March. We've got a lot of snow here, pretty close to 4 meters that's fallen and formed our snowpack. Depending on the weather that comes through the year, we can end up with those weak layers, and those conditions are what we're looking at that can cause avalanches.
Yeah, so welcome back. Now that you know a little bit of the detective work to understand the snow, we're going to talk about how that then turns into an avalanche and show you some of the tools we use to trigger avalanches so that they come down safely and aren't a danger on the highway.
Fantastic. All right.
In Rogers Pass, there are 135 avalanche paths, which are places where avalanches regularly come down along the Trans-Canada Highway. Keeping the highway open and safe in the winter is the reason we do all this snow science work. Every time the route closes, it has huge impacts across the country. We do avalanche control as quickly as possible so nothing gets delayed any more than necessary. The Trans-Canada Highway is the main route to get goods like food, equipment, and all sorts of materials and supplies to and from the western coast of Canada. Here's what an avalanche can look like. We try to do avalanche control as soon as we notice those recipe ingredients for an avalanche exist. Our goal is to bring them down before they get too big or before they choose to come down by themselves. Often avalanches are small, but sometimes they can get big enough to destroy houses and trains. We sometimes do something called heli-bombing, where we drop an explosive from a helicopter into a spot where we think we can trigger an avalanche. To keep big natural avalanches from affecting the highway, we try to bring down smaller avalanches when conditions are right and when the road is closed to keep the highway safe. In Rogers Pass, we do this with the help of a Canadian Armed Forces team. They come out each winter with big guns called howitzers. These howitzers can send explosive shells into an area where avalanches start high up the slope. The explosion causes the snow to release, bringing down avalanches on our terms when we have the highway closed and cars are stopped in a safe area. The entire avalanche control team works quickly to bring down avalanches and then reopen the road for travelers. There's other things we use as well on our mission to keep the highway safe. RACS, which stand for Remote Avalanche Control System, are towers placed at the top of avalanche slopes that can release explosives to set off an avalanche using a tablet or computer from far away. With the RACs, we can bring down more avalanches in less time to get the road open faster. Earth mounds are a really clever way of using the terrain to slow down avalanches. They are very similar to the speed bumps you find in your neighborhood. At the bottom of certain avalanche paths, dirt has been piled up into bumps, and these bumps break up an avalanche so it has less chance of coming down across the highway. Snow nets are permanent, huge nets that have been drilled into the mountain. They are in spots where we know avalanches come down regularly, and these nets catch snow at the top of where the avalanche could slide and hold it there, helping to prevent big avalanches from coming down.
All right, so that was just a small snapshot of everything that happens to keep the road open and safe for everybody. It takes a huge team of people, everyone from our avalanche technicians that are out on skis collecting all the clues to our highway operators that are working on the highway to clear all the snow off the road. There's a lot of people involved. And this year was a record snowpack year. It was we got a lot of snow. It was a big winter and a lot of work to go along with it. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining me today, talking a little bit about snow science. I'm a big snow nerd and I love it. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Yeah. Well, we are going to dive in with questions, but first we're going to play those final 2 Kahoot questions that are no correct answer. I did press a button a little early, which shouldn't have been the thing. But we'll bring that up for everybody to see what you guys thought and how much you learned. So our first one is, we learned some things, we learned a lot, we didn't learn anything. Mix up both. Some people didn't learn too much. Some people learned quite a bit today, which is great. And then for our final question for everybody, before we dive into Q&A, I want to see what we thought of today's program. So did you love today's program? Are you kind of neutral with today's program? Or are you just like terrified of avalanches now and you want to run away screaming? That is a valid answer. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I will say that 3-minute final video is one of my very favorite science videos I've ever seen in like over 1,000 broadcasts. The fact that you shoot giant guns and drop bombs from helicopters on mountains is like the coolest thing of all time. So a nice mix today. Very few people didn't like it, and a few people neutral, but 40% loved today's program. Way to go, guys. That's exciting to hear. And we're going to dive in with questions. We've got so much time for questions today, so thank you guys for sticking around and being so keen. If you're on YouTube, you want to share in the chat, we'd love to hear from you there, but we will go to our live classes to kick us off while our YouTube groups get their thoughts together. So Ms. Kaufman's class joining us today, 3-4 group joining us in Howard Central. If you guys want to kick us off with a question, you are good to go.
Thank you.
Hi, my question is, how often do avalanches happen?
Well, that's a good question. And it depends a lot on the winter. This winter, it happened a lot. So we were probably doing avalanche control this winter every 5 to 10 days. Most days we would have some avalanches. There might be 1 or 2. And some days during big storms, we would have a lot of avalanches. So you might have 50 or 60 that we were seeing happening.
Yeah. So I'm curious, as a quick follow-up, like, is it the sheer amount of snow that falls? Is it the nature of the snow? Like, you showed that beautiful demonstration earlier where it sticks and that's different than when it's on top. Is there something about the weather that's causing you to be a lot this year? Or?
Yeah, all of the above. So like I was saying in there, you need that weak layer. So this winter we did have some really interesting storms. For example, at the end of December, we had a really warm storm that created a rain crust that went way up high on the mountain. So if you imagine an icy layer that snow really isn't going to stick to, and then after that, you get a really big storm, you end up with all that snow sitting on an icy layer, and that's going to be too much, and you're going to get avalanches resulting. So this winter, definitely the amount of snow that we got was a big factor.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let's head to our Hornby Island Green team. If you guys have some questions to keep us rolling on, let's do it. Hey, welcome in. We see everybody.
Okay, no, yeah, go ahead, Kinley. Oh, I don't know if I can see you. You're right behind Luke. There you are.
Hey.
What time of year are avalanches most common?
What kind
What
of
time of year are they most common?
What time of year?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so that's another really good question. But the time of year where we get the most avalanches, I would say most likely is December through February, because that's when we're getting those the big storms. And then in the spring, it can get pretty busy as well because it gets really warm. And so you get the sun and all that heat that's melting the snow quickly, and we can get some really big avalanches in the spring as well.
Yeah. All right. A quick question based on that final video. You have these amazing nets. You have the big mogul sort of at the bottom. With the nets, when you're putting them in, don't you have to be careful about avalanches coming while you're putting in those nets to begin with? And do you have to re-put in those nets after an avalanche has fallen, or how does it work?
The snow nets are permanent installations.
Okay.
So they're in there year round. You can see them if you drive through Rogers Pass in the summer as well. You'll see them. They're up there on the mountain. They're anchored into the mountain, and they just hold the snow up there so it doesn't move.
Yeah. So do they ever, like, if an avalanche hits them though, like if they do have that impact, does it rip them out at all? Like, do you ever have to put them back or no?
Yeah, they're what we call up in the start zones. So it's where avalanches actually start,
Yeah.
so they don't get hit by them. That said, they are inspected every year. So every summer, a team of specialists go up and they inspect them to make sure that they're still in good shape and do any repairs that are needed.
Very, very cool. All right. Guys, don't be shy on StreamYard, YouTube. If you have more questions, we'd love to hear from you. But we'll head back to Ms. Kaufman's group to keep us going. If you want to unmute your mic, you are all set to go. Great to be forward and welcome back. Take your time, no rush.
Sorry, we didn't realize we were coming that quickly. Scarlett's on her way.
No worries. All right. Coming up. Good to go.
How big can avalanches get?
Yes. How big?
So we break them into 5 sizes. So a size 1 is a really little avalanche. It's not big enough to hurt a person. A size 5 avalanche is huge, and it's big enough to essentially take out a village. So we break them into those sizes. A size 2 is big enough to injure or bury a person. A size 3, a car. A size 4, you're getting into something that can take out a train or big buildings. So they can get really big.
I've never heard this before. I think a lot of our classes might be familiar with tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes. I've never heard an avalanche scale before, but you showed in the footage some of these incredible things just ripping out trees like they're nothing, which is unfathomable. I like the level 1 avalanche. You're on the hill and the snow suddenly just goes around your feet and you're like, oh, cool. You just keep walking along. That sounds like the best kind for me. Green team, come on back in BC. YouTube groups, feel free to keep sharing. This is great. Oh, we got our first YouTube questions coming in. We'll take those after our Hornby Island folks. Hey, guys.
How big is the biggest avalanche you've seen?
Ooh, biggest one you've ever seen, Danielle.
I have never seen a size 5. I've seen size 4 avalanches though. So that's as big as I've seen. I've definitely seen them take out lots of trees, and doing our control with the roads closed, have seen some really big avalanches. It's definitely one of the coolest parts of my job.
Absolutely. And a nice follow-up question from Miss Kitchen on YouTube. So the biggest one that you've dealt with, so as a group, as a park, I guess you do deal with stage or level 5 ones. And so how do you go about that? Like when the avalanches cover the road, like how long does it take to clear that road? Because it sounds like quite the difficult challenge.
Definitely. Yeah. So sometimes, ideally, like I said in the video there, we're trying to do avalanche control often enough that the snow doesn't build up to become those really, really big avalanches. So it's, unlikely for us to get the size 5 avalanches. That said, sometimes we do get the size 4 avalanches that come down, and at times it can take a couple days. With big, we get the huge, big loaders, big machinery that you'd see doing construction, and they're out there working for hours. So that's once we're done all the avalanche control, they're not threatened by other avalanches, and they can get in there and they work nonstop to clear all the trees and snow off the highway. And it can take anywhere from an hour to literally days.
Yeah. And you showed again that you guys trigger so many of them to make sure that they're all good and they don't go by themselves and they take out rows. How many are you triggering in a season? And I mean, like, who gets to be on that helicopter dropping the bombs? Because honestly, if you ever need a volunteer, I am available. Like, just let me know and I'll be there so fast and your head spin. But like, how is that decision made? When do you do that? And like, how does that all pan out?
Yeah, I guess we have a team of people with us working up in Rogers Pass. So there's about 14 of us that are certified to do that work, and we cycle through the schedule. So generally you're going to have, for heli bombing, you'll have the helicopter pilot. You have one person in the back seat. So in the video there, you saw Johan in the back that was priming the charges and actually deploying the explosives out of the helicopter. And you have another person in the front seat who's recording all the information, setting a timer and paying attention there, helping get them into targets and whatnot. When we're working with the howitzers with the Department of National Defense, it takes more people. So So typically my job is I'm going to be deciding where the howitzer is going to be shooting. We have our avalanche technicians that are there on scene coordinating with the military. We've got all our traffic controllers in place. It takes a big team of people.
Yeah. May I say on behalf of not just our students, but all Canadians, the fact that you didn't put like a random phrase on helibombing and kept that as the official term is amazing. So thank you for that very much. Guys, so in the area that you're in, obviously this is such a huge and regular challenge every year. You need to plan for this. There's all this work that goes into it. So with that expertise, do you work with other places in Canada, other places around the world to sort of highlight what's been successful there? Because you're in this like ultimate training ground for preventing avalanches.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty cool. The whole international snow industry is quite organized in Canada here. We're definitely at the forefront, I think. So we have the whole Canadian Avalanche Association. We have annual meetings, which is coming up here, where everybody gets together. We talk about what went well, what we've learned. We can learn from each other. More closely, you know, we've got our program in Glacier National Park. Then there's the provincial avalanche control programs that are working adjacent to us, and we've got other programs that are working with the rail lines. So we're all working really closely together. We're always communicating our observations. If we're, you know, seeing avalanche conditions, we're talking to each other and really working closely together.
I love that as a Canadian, we are known for our now maple syrup and thwarting avalanches. I think if you're going to pick a duo and some hockey in there too, it's very exciting. Let's take a question from YouTube and then we'll head back to our live groups. Time flies and you're having fun, folks. We're going to get to a few more in here. Ms. Kitchen Class wants to know again, do avalanches happen any time of day? Is it more, you know, the morning, the sun hits the mountain for the first time? Is it middle of the night? Like when do these occur?
Yeah, they can happen any time of day.
Okay.
So a lot of that's going to depend on when the storms come in, and that is the beauty of working with the howitzer. So a lot of other areas don't have access to working with the military, which we fortunately do, and that allows us to go like any time of day, day or night. So if you're only helicopter bombing, you couldn't fly at night or in some of the big storms. Where with the military, we can be out there in the pitch black in big storms and still be able to do avalanche control.
If you'd asked me 7 years ago when I started doing Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants programs, that's the beauty of working with a howitzer would ever be a phrase that would appear in a broadcast, I would have laughed you out of the room. So thank you very much. Let's head back to Ms. Kaufman's group. Come on in, guys, and take us away.
Hi, guys. Grayson had a question, and he wondered if we were out and we got stuck in an avalanche, what are some things that we could do?
Nice.
So are you in your car or are you out?
Are we
what do we think? Are we walking?
We are walking.
We're walking along.
Okay. Well, hopefully if you're out in avalanche terrain, it's really important that you take a course is the first thing I'll say. So anybody, if you're going to be out in exposed to places where you can have avalanches, there's some really good courses you can do to learn about this, and there's some really important equipment you should always have with you before you go in avalanche terrain. So there's things called avalanche transceivers. You wear them and they essentially send a signal constantly. And if you're buried in an avalanche, your friends that are with you can switch it to search and they can find you. And then the other pieces of equipment that you all need to have then is a shovel and something that we call a probe, which is just a long pole you can assemble. So those tools allow you to find where the person that's buried is and dig them out. So before anybody goes in avalanche terrain, it's really important you have those pieces. And then the other thing is checking the avalanche bulletin. So if folks are interested after this, if you Google Avalanche Canada, then you're going to come to a site where you can check all the avalanche bulletins, and that gives you some really good information about the current avalanche danger.
Very cool.
If you personally are the one that's caught in an avalanche, some of the things that they talk about, and I personally have not had to actually do this, but we practice and train a lot, is the idea of as you're in the avalanche, you're kind of trying to swim. It sounds funny, but you're trying to get to the surface. as the avalanche slows down, the idea of like trying to clear snow away from your face so you have an air pocket around you. And then the other thing is just to try to stay very calm, which also sounds silly, but you want to stay calm knowing that your friends that are with you have the equipment and they're going to get to you.
I'm really, really glad you brought all that up, and especially the preparatory stuff. So we even did this a couple weeks ago with Lake Louise, talking about Park Smart and just knowing the trails, knowing the terrain you're getting into. I think there's a tendency, certainly when I was a boy, I'm Canadian, I'm going to Parks Canada, I'm going to a place that's well regulated, there's great people, there's great staff and service, and to think, oh, it's all taken care of. And the more prep that you do, the more you know in advance. Maybe you need bear spray, maybe you need stuff for winter walking. That really goes a long way to making sure that you have both a good and a safe park experience. So I'm really glad we got that question. All right, Green Team, Hornby Island, back to you guys. Take us away. And if we get another YouTube one, we'll go from there. But otherwise, we will wrap up after that, everybody. Hey, Green Team.
Come in just a little bit so they can see you. Yeah, there you are. Okay, go ahead, Beatrix.
How do glaciers form?
Ooh, glaciers form. Are they forming from the same storms that form these avalanches? What's going on?
Yeah, well, I'm not a glaciologist, but they would form in areas where the snow doesn't melt over time. So areas where that snow lasts over, and we're talking long time frames. This isn't in a year. This is like way longer than any of us live. So that snow, if it doesn't melt over time, my understanding is it would compress, it doesn't melt. And way back in the day, they might have been growing. Right now, sadly, our glaciers are shrinking really rapidly because there's more melt than accumulation of snow.
I'm actually, way to go, doing a good job at the glacier question. I know it's always tricky to do when that's not the specialty field, but I really encourage our classes. Look up how glaciers have formed Canada's landscapes. It's quite extraordinary to think of these mountain passes, valleys, Ontario slowly rising still from the weight of the glaciers that used to be on top of it. We've got a lot of North American classes with us today. Glaciers really have done a lot to make our landscape look the way it does. So great question, guys. So Danielle, before we wrap up, I'm going to note for all our classes, we will get you guys all the resources you need to keep the learning going about the amazing parks out there, how avalanches are thwarted, the link to this video and more. You can check out our Peak series as well if you want to check that out and the other programs we had in the past and coming up the next few weeks. But Danielle, is there a final message you want to share with us just about the work that you guys do, what's important for our classes to take away today?
Yeah, I can't think of a whole lot to add on at the end. I think the big one, if people are driving around, traveling through our passes, or you're coming to the national parks, I would check out our websites because they have a lot of really good information. Encourage people to check Drive BC, and that'll give you some information about whether the roads are open or closed. And definitely just, I think my job's really cool. Like I said, I love the snow industry, and just I hope folks get interested and keep trying to learn about snow.
Fantastic. There's no better ending than that. And by the way, your job is very cool. You don't need to just think so. We all agree. Danielle, the whole team out there, thank you so much for such a fun program today. We're excited to catch you guys in French in just an hour. And what we do to end every broadcast, I'm going to bring back in our live class, say a big thank you and farewell. So Green Team, Ms. Kaufman, unmute your mics. You guys are good to go. Thank you so much for joining today, everybody.